Good afternoon, ladies, and welcome to the June EPR Women's Network Seminar. We are so excited that you are here, and we are so excited to see so many familiar names. I see a lot of people from all over the world actually calling in, and we want to especially welcome you. Welcome if this is your first time at an EPR Women's Network Seminar. You are so welcome. We see a lot of people calling in from lots of different places. So typically with each Women's Network seminar, we will have an expert on the subject come and present. And also we will have a lot of time for interaction. So please get ready and get excited because this network seminar is no different. It's going to be phenomenal. So today we have one of the experts on financial topics. We have Chineme Esemi, who is actually a certified public accountant and a certified fraud examiner. She has been an accountant for over 17 years, and she's actually a member of the Esther's Preparation Room Network. So I'm just so excited to be able to host this seminar and so excited to see so many of you. Just a quick housekeeping, if you can, share the link with someone. Share the link with someone else who can benefit from this seminar. Do not gain alone. Do not benefit alone. Feel free to invite a friend to invite a friend, and we'll go ahead and get started. With that, I want to invite Chineme Esemi. Thank you so much for being here with us, and the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm really excited about today's presentation. Even before we get started, I just want to let everyone know that this topic of finances and financial responsibility, a lot of us have heard different talks, different seminars, a lot of the points that will be shared today. But I just want to let us know that we should keep an open mind. This is the time to probably grab your notepads and pens. Have them ready because as you're listening, you're not necessarily writing down everything that is said or that I would share with you. But as you're listening, you're going to be very reflective and you're going to start applying what you're hearing to your own personal situation. And I want you to put down notes, actionable points for you to go ahead and action later, for you to do later. Things that would kind of ring a bell or touch on a particular point that is applicable to you. I want you to use this time effectively. This is probably the time to increase your expectation as to what you're going to gain out of this. And let's have a wonderful time. So I'm happy to be here, and let's go ahead and take a pulse of those that are on the call today. Let's know who you are and where you are in your financial journey. So here is a quick poll. I usually like to start with this, just so that, we could frame the conversation, set your expectations properly. And the poll is, how confident are you that you will meet most of your financial goals this year? We're already halfway through the year, or going halfway through the year. So are you extremely confident? Are you somewhat confident? Are you not so confident? Or are you just saying, hey, wait, what are my financial goals again? And are you that person that's screaming, help? So which one are you?
That's awesome. A lot of the polls are coming in. Feel free to keep voting. We're just going to keep it for about 30 more seconds and allow everyone to vote. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll now. There are a couple more people who still have to vote. But if you want that last minute chance, go ahead and click one of the options and we'll end the poll and display the results in a few seconds. So one person is asking, how do you vote? Basically, there is a poll button at you should see a poll button. It could also be at the bottom of your screen. And if you go ahead and click that, you will be able to vote. So I'm going to go ahead and share the results. And this is what everyone said. So one person is extremely confident. That's awesome. sort of the majority of people are somewhat and not so confident, and a few of you have asked, what are my financial goals? And this is actually a great starting point for the conversation today. Chineme, back to you.
All right, thank you so much. So let's go ahead and talk about the objective of today's meeting. We need to have an objective, and that objective is to empower all of us on this call, all of us attendees. We need to be empowered with the knowledge and the paradigm shift and mindset necessary for all of us to maximize our financial potential in order to equip all of us to fulfill our life's purpose. This is so key. So with that, let's go right into it. The end goal, what most people are looking to achieve, is wealth, right? So we're looking to achieve wealth. If we can extend to the next slide, thank you. So let's take a new look at wealth. Henry David Thoreau, he said that wealth is the ability to fully experience life. And that's why throughout this presentation, you're going to hear me refer to our life's purpose. Why are you on earth? Everyone is unique and we're here for a purpose. And so being able to fulfill that purpose, not having anything hinder you, that is the definition. We just looked at the definition of wealth and how it's connected to our life purpose. And so we want to now look at our personal finances, which is what we're discussing today. So let's take a second and look at this slide for a second. We need to revisit what we've always known, but kind of look at it in a better perspective. The equation, fundamental equation that we always need to keep in mind is that our income less our expenses equals our disposable income. And here we kind of see what makes up income. Everything that is coming in, our work, our side hustle. A lot of us these days, we have other things that we're doing on the side. Any gifts that come in from friends and family, welfare, any kind of government assistance, your tax return, everything that comes in is your income. And then you have your expenses. And then here we have what we want to really focus on today. Some of you have not seen this before, but if your expenses outrun your income, you are in the red. You have debt. I don't care if it's in your credit card balances or what have you. If you are paying out more than you're bringing in, you are in debt. But once you begin to balance that equation, then you have a little bit of wiggle room to put away. And that's what we call savings. Now, watch what happens when you consistently save and you have the right mindsets, which is what we're talking about today. You begin to build net worth by making the right investments, the right purchases, purchasing things that would increase your net worth as opposed to clothes and jewelry and cars that will not increase your net worth. And watch what happens as you increase your net worth. Your priority becomes freeing up time in order to do more. Right? Your capacity begins to grow. You're looking to pay others to do the things that you would normally do so that you can then achieve more. You can influence more people, impact more people. So you would see a lot of people that are high achievers. They are looking for ways to create and make time because we're all given 24 hours in a day. As you create more time, then you are able to see the opportunities that come your way. A lot of times we wonder why the same people are able to stay ahead of the curve and they're able to see opportunities a lot quicker and sooner than some of us would. That's because they've spent time to think ahead and search out those opportunities. And as you begin to take advantage of opportunities, what ends up happening is that your quality of life is improved. Your quality of life is augmented. And this is very strategic, by the way. And as you're getting a better quality of life, that purpose, that impact you're supposed to make to humanity becomes a lot more crystallized. That's when you get to that goal of being in wealth, right? You're able to leave a legacy for future generations. You're able to impact humanity so much that you leave a lasting impact. So with that in mind, please have a clear picture. As I was talking, you should start visualizing what wealth looks like for you. And that vision that you have, that's what you need to have in mind. Start with that end goal in mind. So now that you're having visions, right, of wealth, of grandeur, of where you want to be, it's just a beautiful picture. Before you go too far with that, we need to caution you and let you know that this takes time. Building wealth takes time. That equation that we talked about earlier, you are going to find a way to start increasing your income and start decreasing your expenses and begin to increase that wiggle room over time. And what you need really is diligence. The word diligence, some people say, well, I want to operate in excellence. I want to be the best in my field. I want to be diligence. I need diligence. And diligence is the steadfast application, the virtue of hard work, thoroughness, completeness, and persistence of an action. So this has, let's go ahead and go on to the next slide. I've been told that I am cutting in and out. Is that the case? Are you guys able to hear me?
Just post in the chat box.
Okay. Okay, very good. Okay, so let me continue. So let's take a look at some of the hindrances. Remember, we're talking about hindrances to reaching that place of wealth. And the biggest hindrance is poverty. And poverty is not just a lack of money. We're going to understand what poverty really means. And here, there are two kinds of poverty. Today, we're not focused on the temporary dryness or temporary wilderness that all of us have to go through. There's seasons in our lives that we need to learn some lessons. And so you could be going through a trial, a testing, and that's supposed to prepare you for the next level of your journey. Please don't discount that season. Don't hasten to get out of that season until you've learned all the lessons that you need so that you're successful for your next level. What we're focused on today is the second type, which is generational, self-imposed, lifestyle sort of poverty. And one of the things I'm going to say really quickly is that if we don't address this problem, it becomes a vicious cycle. It's passed on over generation. We tend to react and act in ways that really are indicative of what we saw growing up, right? So one of the first things you see there is that we tend to overcompensate. A lot of us, if we grew up with some type of lack, maybe a lack in one area, when we get older, as soon as we have a little bit of means, we want to overcompensate. We want to overdo it. We want to show out in that area, maybe wearing brand name clothing, making sure that we're always on point in the way we look, making sure that our external appearance conveys the right message to drown out the voice of what we thought we lacked when we were younger. Please don't fall into that trap. And then we make a lot of compromises. You know, on this journey to wealth, integrity actually is key. So you have to keep your integrity. You cannot cut corners. We also need to check our motives. Our motives have to be right. A lot of times we want to portray different things on the outside, but on the inside, our motives are not right. Are you really getting to that place of wealth for yourself, for selfish reasons? Or are you truly wanting to make an impact to humanity? Are you truly wanting to solve a problem, fill a need, help the people? Or are you just trying to have your names up in lights? So this is one thing that you have to really keep in mind. And then we also have to be careful of negative judgments, both ends of the spectrum. A lot of times we see very rich people and we immediately give them the side eye. You can't be salty about that person who has already gotten to the place where you're looking to get to. Maybe this is time to go buy their biography, read about how they were able to get to that place of success and that place of wealth. And then on the flip side, we can have negative judgments. A lot of times we see people who are very less fortunate, maybe on the streets or what have you. And again, we give them that side eye. But we have to be careful because a lot of people are just a paycheck or two away from being put out of our homes, from living in our cars. So we have to be very mindful of these negative judgments. Okay, so right now, this is a good place to transition into some interaction. I want to hear from poverty, from some of the characteristics of poverty that come to your mind. What is the first thing that comes to mind? If you can use your chat box and let's have a lot of submissions. What are the characteristics of poverty that come to mind? Excuse me. So I see lack mindset, lack of education, reduced self-esteem, mindset of financial trauma, a continuous lack of resources. Okay, stinginess, stress, okay. Maybe we can go ahead and extend to the next slide. Big dreams without plans. Very good. So here are some of the things I just jotted down. This is not an exhaustive list. This is just from my years. Fear. I see someone just said fear. So this is from my years of talking to people, again, from all ends of the spectrum, the uber rich, even the very poor people. Vicious cycle and generation, we already talked about that. A constant worry and panic, always in an emergency mode. Instant gratification. There's a gratification that people want to have even without putting the work in, right? So it's half-baked. Myopic vision, nearsightedness, just not having enough, being able to think far ahead. They're only thinking about what they can eat today. Lack of vision, really not having vision, getting by or coasting through, right? We can't just get by. We need to operate in excellence. Laziness and procrastination, I'm just going to leave that alone and move on. Fear. Fear paralyzes people. You're constantly thinking about what you're going to do, and you just never get around to doing it because of fear. Fear of failure, fear of success. There's so many different types of fear out there. Stale knowledge. You cannot hold on to that one class that you took in 1966. You have to move on. The world has moved on. So you need to constantly learn and update your knowledge to what's going on so that you can help and make impact in the present time. No integrity, no self-discipline, poor choices, being a bad steward of what you have. Even if you have $5, can you be a good steward of that $5? Don't say, I'm going to wait until I have $1 million to learn how to manage it. Start managing the $1 that you have. And then lastly, are you just consuming? Or are you pulling your own weight in producing, helping to produce what the world needs? When we say the world, you included, you have to be a part of producing what is needed for the world to move, the economy to move. So here, this is a time for you to start making some reflective notes. And I'm just going to read out some quotes to you. And I put this slide as a transition slide. This is the time as you're listening to the sound of my voice, I want you to start making notes. How you can apply some of these things that we're hearing today to your own personal life. So Miles Monroe, he said that success is a result of obedience to laws. There are principles that guide getting to that place of wealth. And you cannot get there, you cannot be successful unless you obey them. You actually need to abide by those principles. A lot of times we focus so much on making more money that we forget what's after the equal sign. We talked about the formula at the beginning of this presentation. You have to pay attention to where you are in those series of places and destinations on the other side of the equal sign. Make sure that you're progressing and advancing to the next level and that you're not stagnant in one place. And then, of course, my favorite quote is, what's in your hands? What do you have in your hands right now? A lot of times we make a lot of excuses as to what we're going to do if several conditions become the case. If I have this and this and this, then I'm able to move and act. No, you could start right now. What do you have in your hands? And another Miles Monroe quote, success is what you have done compared to what you were created to do. Here is that life purpose coming up again. Here is that being able to help humanity make a lasting impact. You have to start measuring success by that, not by what you own and the stuff that you've accumulated over time. And then lastly, we all have a tendency that we need to address. That's the human condition. How can we build capacity if the foundation is not strong enough to support a larger structure? So think about capacity building and not just accumulating more stuff. If you're able to achieve more, can you achieve more with the current structure of your mindsets, current structure of your habits and your discipline, current structure of how you use your time and your resources? Think about that for a second. If we can go on to the next slide. So things that we need to talk about when we are talking about personal finances. Please permit me, give me a few minutes to talk about this. A lot of people have heard about their credit. In fact, sometimes people tell me to remove this part from my presentation. And yet, when we start the one-on-one conversations, we come right back here because they haven't looked at their credit. And if they have, they haven't cleaned it up. And if they've cleaned it up, they're not constantly actively building to get their credit to a higher level. This is a constant process. You can't just do it one time 5 years ago and just let it run itself. You need to look at your credit. Why? Because cash is not king. At some point, you're going to need either someone's money or you're going to be reviewed based and evaluated based on your credit worthiness. So that is an area that actually becomes a hindrance on your journey to wealth. Even people with a lot of money, they strategically get debt to help them. You can leverage your debt properly. So cash is not king. So here is what we need to think about. This is the time to take a look at your credit report if you haven't. I know the banks and the credit cards, they are now offering your FICO scores and your credit scores. Those are numbers, but you need to gain access to the actual report that drives those numbers, right? So please, if you don't already know this, the federal government gives you your free access to your credit report from all three bureaus, annualcreditreport.com. You need to know what is in your credit report. You also need to go ahead and see what makes up that score. The number one thing that makes up your score is how well you've repaid your credit. You've repaid your past debt. You've repaid all the credit cards and all the other debts that you've accumulated. How well are you repaying it? How much have you borrowed? That's another huge percentage. The length of history. If you just started building your credit history today, you might not be as credit worthy as, say, someone who's had credit and been building their credit for 40 years. So you want to take advantage of these things. Negative information before it falls off your credit report for several years. Let me give you an example. Student loans, that stays on your credit report for 7 years. Bankruptcies, 10 years. Every time you apply for a credit card or you apply for a loan, that's a hard inquiry. And if you accumulate a lot of those, that can begin to adversely affect your credit score. And those stay on your credit report for 2 years and they fall off, rolling every 2 years, it falls off. So you want to be careful as to how many times you actually apply for credit. So please, patience is needed, accuracy is needed. And the strategy out your credit report is there are 3 bureaus. If you want to monitor it, and you get one free one every year. So you may want to access one credit bureau's report, and then after 4 months, access another one, and then after 4 months, access another one. So you can kind of get a snapshot of your credit report at various points in the year. And please don't just get or access your credit report from one bureau, because what they report varies from one bureau to another. Let us go ahead and extend to the next slide, please. So here we've talked about debt not necessarily being a bad thing, because you need that to build. You actually have to put together a financial plan. Your financial plan has to take you from where you are today to where you need to be. And that's why we started off talking about purpose, understanding what wealth looks like to you. So now you're ready to put together a financial plan. Where do you need to be able to achieve your life's purpose, do what you were born to what you were created to do? Once you have that in mind, begin to look at your finances and what you need to get there. The first thing on the list is to find out ways to cut your expenses. I cannot say that loud enough. Look, and some people would tell me, I am down to bare bones. I am down to, I'm pretty much not even eating anymore. I'm eating 1 meal a day and all of that. I get that. When you're done with all you could do to cut your expenses, begin to think about other ways to increase your income. We are living in an era where people have multiple streams of income. They have a side hustle, they have a main hustle, then they have a day job, and we're gonna talk about that a little bit more. And then start saving. Save a little bit first before you start investing. Because the more wiggle room you have, the more you're able to understand what you can invest in and what you can't invest in. If you have only $500 in your savings account and you immediately want to invest just with your first $500, that might be a little bit too tight. So accumulate some savings, cultivate the habit of saving first, and then start looking for opportunities to invest in. Don't be too quick. I've seen people, they were in a haste to invest, to make more money, that they didn't really check that investment opportunity properly and do their due diligence, and they've lost the little savings that they had. And then think about your career choice for a second. I bring this up because I've seen people make a shift. I've seen people make a pivot in various points in their career. They were bold enough to say, wait a minute. They reviewed their financial plan and they thought, hey, I can retool, I can make a pivot and change where it's not too late to change. It's not too late to retool in another field, in another industry. It doesn't even have to be another field or another industry. It could be the same field and the same industry, but maybe the pivot you need to make is another company, another job, another opportunity. Could even be within the same company, but another role to maximize all your know-how within that company. This seminar is supposed to get you thinking. This is a seminar to ginger you, empower you. Empowerment means now you're empowered to go forth and do. And that's why we need you taking notes and be very reflective as I'm speaking. Be flexible, because your plan will change as your life circumstances change. I've seen people that had to pivot when they started having children. And then I've seen people pivot again when they had more time. I've seen people take international travel consultant jobs just because that was a season in their life when they could do that. And then after a few years, they came back and they remained in their community because they wanted to do some work and leave some lasting impact within their community. You could do whatever you want to do, but you need to be empowered in your mind. And that's where we're starting today. If we can go to the next slide, thank you very much. And so here, I want to just park for a second and talk about a budget. You cannot have a financial plan without cultivating the habit of living by a budget. What is a budget? A budget is a plan for managing money during a given period of time. Remember, you're on a journey to get to that place of wealth, what wealth means for you, what success means for you. And so you have a time frame. I'm guessing that time frame is before you die, right? As you're living, you need to get to that place. And so you need to have a plan. You can't just start a journey without counting the cost and figuring out what it's going to take you to get there. Please, this is a lifestyle. This is not a budget that you need to put together right after this presentation, and then that's it. It's a lifestyle. You need to do it as often as possible. You need to review it. You even need to go back after the month has ended to see, how did I do based on my budget? So make your income a tool. If you don't budget, the tendency is that you're going to spend more than you thought you were going to spend. How many people call me? I can't tell you how many people that call me and they say, well, Jenna, can you look? I don't know where my money's going. They really don't know where their money's going. And so I tell them, okay, let's look at your credit card. Let's look at your debit card, all the swipes. Let's categorize it. And when I show them, hey, you spent thousands of dollars just on eating out dinners, they're surprised. They can't believe it. So you have to know where your money is going. And so please budget effectively. Your personal finance, which I hope you know this, is 80% behavior really, and 20% knowledge. So there shouldn't be a lot of things that I'm telling you today that is the first time you're hearing it. I'm just saying it in a way that calls our attention to revisit it and see how important it is. And of course, we've talked about this before, increase your income while decreasing your expenses. We have a 30-70% rule. And that rule is that 70% needs to go to just your daily living, being able to pay your bills. But 30% you need to leave that as a wiggle room to build wealth. And that changes, obviously. If you have a parent that you're taking care of for a period of time, maybe that 30% is not 30%, maybe it's 5%. You might be in between jobs. It's not going to be 30%. It could be another percent less than that. But the idea is that if you've cultivated that lifestyle, once your circumstance changes, you get back to building wealth, being able to pay yourself first by saving and thinking about that vehicle, what you need to get to your destination of wealth. So obviously save, that's paying yourself first. It is your first source of capital. A lot of our passions and our dreams, we never start because we don't have money. We're looking for a bank to loan us money. The first person, your first source of capital is yourself. Have you been able to save, put away $10, $20 for a period of time? That's how you know you're serious about moving forward with that passion and that dream. Pay yourself first. And of course, set smart goals. Short-term, intermediate, long-term, 20 years out. What do you want to be doing? So let's look at choices and vision. We've kind of come full circle in this conversation. We started off talking about what wealth looks like. Then we've gone all the way to talk about poverty and your credit and debt. And now we're back to what are the choices that you're making today? And is it aligned with your vision? If you are not clear on your vision, how can you take tangible steps to get in there? So discover what your purpose is and you need to write it out. Please don't just have it in that dream state. Begin to write it out. A lot of people will tell you, write out your business plan. Business plans are a little bit more involved. I want you to at least write down what that vision is as far as what you should be doing or what you think you were created to do. Write it out and then start researching. What does it take to do that? Does it take extra knowledge and training and schooling? What kind of seed money do I need? There are many books on lean startup. You no longer need $100,000 to start a business. Now you can start a business with just $1,000. But where are you going to get that seed money from? You're going to get it from yourself. I challenge you from today. Start with what you have in your hands. There are 3 pillars of the wealthy. I'm not talking about of the rich, of the wealthy, people that have cultivated that habit and they're operating in that space of wealth. Hard work. You really can't substitute hard work. You have to actually do the work, the know-how, the knowledge, and actually knowing how to do that purpose that you have. And then diligence. We've talked about that, diligence to keep at it, because hard times are going to come. Roadblocks are going to come, but keeping at it, your stamina and your resilience to keep at your life's purpose is really determinant on how clear that vision and that purpose is. If you're so sure about that purpose and that vision, and that's what you were created to do, you would be diligent, you will be resilient to overcome any kind of obstacles. 10 years later, people are still seeing you at that post. Why? Because you know that's the post that you're supposed to man in life. And then, of course, self-discipline. You have to have discipline. Even if you don't feel like it, come rain, come shine, you keep at it. You have the work ethic to keep at it. So we're going to go ahead and extend to the next slide. I'm trying to make sure that I not only cover time, but that I leave some time to answer questions. I see a lot of questions coming in. Please keep them coming in. I'll do as much as I can to answer them all in this session. So let's talk about it today. We need to stay ahead of it. And we've talked a lot about reducing our expenses. Well, what about increasing our income? In today's world, everyone, everywhere, auntie, uncle, mommy, daddy, everyone is monetizing what is supposed to be our hobbies or our passion or our pastimes. Everyone wants to monetize everything, right? That's the era that we live in. And so there is no shortage of creative ideas. But as you're having those creative ideas, thousands of other people are having ideas all over the place. Please, that should serve as an encouragement and not as a deterrent. You should be encouraged to say, if someone over there can just sit at home and just a little camera on their phone and a little selfie stick can make thousands of dollars, so can I. So find out what your niche is and start coming up with creative ideas of monetizing whatever that passion is. It takes a lot of hard work. If you talk to a lot of these social media influencers, they're spending day and night at their craft. So please, this is something that we all need to think about. I've also started thinking about these other ways, multiple streams of income. But we have to be good stewards first that we can have now. We need to put them away to be able to nurture these multiple streams of income. There is a delay of gratification that is needed if you're going to build a second, a third, and a fourth stream of income. You need to avoid being in emergency mode all the time. If you're in emergency mode all the time, then there's not enough time for creativity. Remember, we talked about looking out for opportunities. when you actually have time to think. Time is also real time, but also time as opportunities to be able to have creative ideas. You cannot get in that place, that mindset, if you're in emergency mode all the time. Oh, I got to do this. Oh, I got to do this. And a lot of times I find out that being in emergency mode all the time is created by procrastination, not doing what you were supposed to do at the time you were supposed to do it. So you're constantly playing catch up. I got to catch up. I got to catch up. I got to catch up. This is the time to drastically reduce that and start freeing up your mind to not only catch up, but to stay ahead of the curve. And then you need to create time for thinking sessions. I call them thinking sessions, and I have them a lot. The higher I go, the more I need them. I need to clear my thoughts. I need to write down what I'm thinking. If I'm on the train and a thought, an idea comes to me, I write it down. I write it down because we were born with creativity. We were created by a creative God. So there's creativity inside of us. Things, we're going to see things, we're going to hear things, and it's going to spark an interest in us. We need to write those down. And you can't just have flashes of thoughts. You need to then sit down and say, wait a minute, let me get that notepad where I wrote all those flashes of thoughts. How do they all piece together? How can I really implement this in my life? And then how can I monetize it as far as the extra stream of income that we're talking about? And I can't stress enough the continuous learning. That is something that we always have to learn. So look at this for a second. Just last week, and you could Google this, by the way, I implore every income trap and the rise of the 4-income household. This is something that we all need to think about. This is the era that we live in, right? So Bob Sullivan, he just wrote an article. An original article was written by Elizabeth Warren. Well, hers was actually a book, right? The politician, Elizabeth Warren. She wrote a book talking about the 2-income trap, the consequence of social change from the 1950s and 60s. So think about it for a second. There was once upon a time in the 50s and 60s where households, the man would work, the woman would take care of the kids, and that one income would take care of everything that's needed in the household, take care of savings, would take care of investing, whatever it is that the financial goals of the family. One income would take care of it. And then the women started to work, so we had 2-income household. But now Bob Sullivan is capturing, and there's so many surveys that have come out in the past just few months actually, and we're starting to see that this is on the rise. 4-income household. What does that mean? The husband is working, the wife is working, and both of them have side hustles. And I mean, 4-income household is used very loosely. It could be 5, 6, 7 because people have more than one side hustle. So 45 of Americans say that they have a side hustle. 3 in 10 hustlers who have full-time work say that they need their side job to pay for the basics. This is an eye-opener. So now the one income is no longer enough. The side hustle is not to feed or save or be able to build wealth. The side hustle, Americans are saying they needed to pay for the basics, rent, food, things like that. So if you think about this, this dynamic is really crazy. That means that our income is increasing, but our expenses are increasing even faster. When I read this, I mean, the survey was talking about so many other things, but for me, as a financial person, when I read this, all the alarms in my head went off. This is a crazy phenomenon. But after this presentation today, and you have this at the back of your mind, we need to be a lot more careful. Look at the bank rate survey. It found that 40% of millennials, they're side hustlers. They say that they earn at least, paired with 22% of members of Generation X and only 9% of baby boomers. That's just a little bit for us to think about. Let's move on to the next slide. So let's talk about your take-home charge. I hope that from here on out until when we start answering questions, that you're going to jot down every last minute points or reflections that you've had during this presentation that you've not had a chance to jot down. This is the time to do that as I talk to us about our take-home charge. Any goals, extra goals that just flashed through your mind while I was talking, any opportunity for side hustles, you need to jot those down as well. Anything that you're currently doing right now as a hobby and ways to monetize that, increasing your side hustle and increasing your multiple streams of income is not wise if you're not going to get to wealth. What do I mean by that? Some people are stuck in just getting side hustle that they're so busy, they're working around the clock. They have never gone back to review that equation we started off with. So even with their 4 or 5 side hustles, they're still in the red. They haven't even moved to building their net worth, let alone going to see opportunities or increasing or augmenting their quality of life. Please, the purpose of the side hustle, the purpose of the multiple streams of income is to better balance your equation so that it can serve as a vehicle to getting you closer to your destination of wealth. That's what the side hustle is for. So with that in mind, let's go over our take-home charge. Can we go back to the last slide for a second? Just for the benefit of to the sound of my voice, I just want to read off some of these things to you. Please go back and clarify your purpose and your vision, that financial goals that you put together. Continuously track your spending. And while you're tracking it and you go back and you look at your actual, so you compare your budget with your actual, look for patterns, schedule and take out time to think. Engage in active listening and learning. A lot of times we hear there's so many podcasts, there's information overload, but make sure that all that listening is active. Make sure that all that attending classes, and there are 10,000 master classes out there, make sure that you're taking back and you're implementing them in your life. That's what active learning is. That's what active listening is. Solicit, here's an interesting one. Solicit and nurture a mentoring relationship. An actual mentoring relationship. Begin to have those one-on-one conversations and glean from people who have done some of these things that you want to do. Please go take a look at your credit report. Also start paying off those debts. Start paying them off. I'm paying off mine. Start paying off yours. Avoid distractions. There's so many distractions today. Everyone is on social media. Everyone is doing the next hot thing. You don't have to be a part of every movement out there. Stay in your lane. Take care of what you've been called to do. That position, man it. Don't be looking to your left and to your right and what everyone else is doing. Should you say no? Probably. Sometimes you should. And then actively help one person in your area of expertise. Helping others that are coming up helps you really put into perspective while you're here. And it also opens doors so that people that are ahead of you can also help you. Each one, reach one. You can't receive help and a lot of mentoring from others, and you're not actively finding someone to mentor and to help. So now let's go to the questions and let me try to answer some of them.
Wow, thank you so much, Chinamet, for that really powerful talk. If any of you have any questions, a few of them are coming in already, but if you have any questions, now is the time to type it into your chat box. And we'll go ahead and Chinamet will go ahead and read them and respond to them. But don't wait. If you have a burning question, do not wait. This is the chance and the time for you to ask that question, and we will get through as many of them as we can if you just give us a few minutes. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So the first one I see from Laura, if you're checking your credit score, like we said, from annualcreditreport.com, or you're just going and getting your FICO scores from your credit cards and from your bank, those that are provided to you, that doesn't affect your credit. But checking your credit from a car dealership means that you're applying for a loan. And what we talked about is when you're applying for loans, you're applying for credit cards, they must pull your credit report. And when they pull your credit report, think about it for a second. It is wise for the credit bureaus to know every time you apply for credit. If someone applies for so many times they're applying for credit, that means that they need money and they're spending. You have to, you need that money to spend. You're trying to buy something, a loan, a car, or a credit card to spend. That does lower your credit score. And we talked about that. That stays on your credit report for 2 years. So please, and they check it within a 12-month window. If you have many applications within a 12-month window, just be careful of that. You shouldn't be applying, this place denied you, so you went over here. This place denied you, so you went. They're all talking to each other. Why? Because they're pulling your credit from the credit bureaus. And the credit bureaus are keeping track of every time you apply for credit. The next question says, some of us could use some help with investments. We want to invest, but we don't know what the real approach is. Is it the finance professionals in the bank? It depends on what type of investment you want to invest in. I'm going to wait to answer that because we have a chance to raffle off a 30-minute time with me. Well, Chichi is going to mention all of that to you later, but let's skip that question for now. Let's keep going. How does one strike a balance between side hustles, multiple streams of income, and a full-time job? So herein lies the dilemma of everyone today. Well, almost everyone. So first of all, if your side hustle is making more money than your day job, then you have a decision to make. Basically, you spend more time on the area of your life, one, that aligns with your purpose, pays you more. You can't all of a sudden disregard your day job that is giving you 90% of your income just because you're passionate about social media and you love the fame that you have on social media. You have to be wise. So the balance really comes from your trajectory. If your end goal, your purpose, is to phase out your day job and to then become this, I keep using social media influencer, but if that's what you're convinced that was why you were put on the earth, then over time, you can't just quit 90% of your income when you haven't saved enough and you don't have enough viable resources to maintain the passion, your purpose, without 90% of your income. You need to use a lot of wisdom. Some people, and you can't be on the job and be taking care of your side hustle. That's stealing time. Let me leave that alone. So this is a balancing act. There's no science to this, is an art, really. So let's move on to the next question. What led you to become so active in investing and building wealth? Well, for me, this all started for me when I moved to New York. I was very surprised. In Texas, I was just living my life, thinking everyone in the world was living that way. I mean, I had traveled around the world. I had seen some people that were less fortunate, but when I moved to New York, that was such an eye-opener. New York here, the expenses are so high. People are doing 2, 3, 4 jobs, and yet I was just very surprised. And these are very passionate people. And then for the people who, and then I started to see people who they just didn't know any better. There was a lack of knowledge. And I thought, wait a minute, I have to share a thing or two. And that's how it started. And it's been this way for several years. I've been in New York now for the New York area for 12 years now. So let's keep going. I need to do a budget. Do I need to budget my giving to help the needy and kingdom projects? Yes, yes, yes. If you have a burden to help the needy and you have a burden to finance kingdom projects, that needs to be part of your budget. A lot of times I have had to, in my budget, there was a particular season in my life where I felt a burden, not to give out knowledge, which I do and I do till today, but that for that season, I had a burden to give to finance kingdom projects. And every month I put it in my budget. I sought out who was doing, because there are people that can reach folks that you can never reach. So what do? You finance them and you enable them to then reach the people that they're reaching. And that's what I did for that season. I budgeted it, I put it in my budget, I wrote out the checks, and I gave to those organizations that I knew they were doing work that I had a burden for, but I don't have the resources to impact that many people as they were impacting. So please, yes, put it in your budget. So with that, let me just stop here and we're going to turn it over to Chi-Chi. There will be opportunities to answer more questions later. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you so much, Chineme, for your time today. I know that I was furiously jotting down notes myself of action items that I need to do to take based on the seminar you just gave. Ladies, if you loved this session, if you know someone who needs this session, if you yourself want to revisit this session, just a few housekeeping items. It is being recorded, so it will be shared to you. For everyone who registered, it will be shared to you via your email. And as Chineme said, she's actually offering a 30-minute consultation. So this is just something she wanted to do. She offered it, and we're really, really grateful to her for doing that. And there are two opportunities to connect with Chineme. So the first one is that 30-minute consultation. And then the second opportunity, she's actually going to be hosting a masterclass in the month of August. So, this was just a 1-hour conversation. And as you can see, there's a lot of information. So the masterclass is actually going to be in August, and it's going to be a 4-week masterclass. And it's just going to delve right into some of the topics. It's going to be a little bit more in depth about meeting your financial goals, of creating wealth, of managing the wealth, and making sure that you are investing correctly in the things that you want to do. So there's two different things. There's the opportunity to raffle off, to be entered into the raffle for the 30-minute consultation, and then the masterclass. So just listen for my instructions. So in the chat box, if you want to be entered into the raffle, just type "count me in." If you want to be kept in the loop for the masterclass, type masterclass. So if you want to do both, you would say "count me in masterclass." If you just want to do the raffle, go ahead and type "count me in." And if you want to do the masterclass, just go ahead and type masterclass. So I'll be reviewing the attendee sheet, all the comments and all of that, and I'll go ahead and pick one of the raffle winners, and we will email you, and you will be able to claim the free consultation, and we'll connect you to Chineme, and you can go ahead and schedule that time with her. But as you do that, I also want you, if you are listening on your phone, on your laptop, whatever it is that you're on right now, go ahead and take a picture of this. This is all the ways that you can contact Chineme. So like I said, she is a certified public accountant. She's on Instagram, Twitter. She has a Facebook account. She's extremely active, extremely responsive. But I also want you to take a look at her website. So this is her active business. She is an entrepreneur by training, and she is also an accountant by training. So her website is lmmile. So ELIMMILE, lmmile.com. Take a look if you're a small business, if you're just starting out. I've sat down with her for about 15 minutes, and in the last 4 months have radically changed the way I approach money. So she's definitely a great resource. And we just want to say thank you once again for spending your time today and teaching us these very valuable tips. And we can't say that enough. Thank you so much. And before we leave, I also want to announce that one of our previous EPR webinars, we actually had a lady who came and she spoke to us, and she's also actually offering a master class as well, and we wanted to make sure to share the details with you. It will be emailed to you, but just kind of keep that in mind. It's going to be starting June 29th, so it's about manifesting your dreams. So we shared in the very beginning of the year about putting together a personal development goal. So this is going back to that. And again, all these details will be emailed to you. The last keeping thing that we will do is we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you how you can apply some of the insights that was shared in your life. So if you can just type in the chat box, what is the one thing that you're going to action from this seminar, right? What is the one thing, as Chinua was talking, what is the one thing that you can do today? What is the one thing you can do in the next week? Is it pulling your credit report? Is it typing out your side hustle ideas? Is it buying a journal for your creative thoughts? Some of us, literally, we have napkins that are taped all over, Post-it notes may not cut it, So what is that one action item? Go ahead and type that in the chat box. And as you do that, I will launch the poll. We want to hear from you how this seminar was. We want to hear what you loved about the seminar, if you want to attend in the future. And we just want to make sure that we continue presenting great content to you as part of the EPR Women's Network. So as you continue typing, I will go ahead and launch that poll. And we'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. So if you can, please go ahead and fill out the poll. Yes, feel free to follow Chiname as well, and we will send all those details to you via email. Awesome. A lot of you are voting. Please continue to vote. We would love to hear from you. If you still have questions about finding the poll, feel free to message the panelists and I will help you out. We'll give a few more minutes. Some of you said as an action item, you're going to eat out less. You're going to develop a budget and stick with it. I love the eating out less. It's surreal. Thank you for that honesty. I reviewed my budget from speaking with Chinam, and I realized, no, it's not okay to spend so much money on things that don't matter. Budget and write out my side hustles. Find ways to create multiple streams of income. Awesome, awesome. Just a few more minutes for the polls. Procrastinating less, love that. Okay, great. We're waiting for a few more people. We'll go ahead and close the poll in 30 seconds. Being more disciplined was one thing. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Thank you so much for voting. And the final announcement is that we want to invite you to the next EPR Women's Network seminar. Esther's Preparation Room is a ministry that meets and gathers women from all over the world and teaches them how to be successful personally and professionally. We also have a prayer ministry that meets every Saturday, and we pray weekly about things that matter to us. So we log in frequently, and we just want to keep you updated as to what's happening with us and through us, and you will have a chance to connect with us. We will send out this detail. The reason why I wanted to announce our July seminar is that we've had so many fantastic seminars throughout the year, starting from our January, which was setting goals, up to today, which was maximizing your financial potential. So you can find us on YouTube, but we want to have a reunion of sorts, and to make sure that we recap what we've learned so far. As Chineme said today, it's not enough to listen. Have we actioned what we have heard, right? So we want to, in our July seminar, recap, reset, and recharge. So you are definitely invited to that seminar. It's going to be July 13th at 12 p.m. so Eastern. So please watch out for that as well. And with that, we just want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for inviting others. We pray that this was a huge blessing to you, and stay tuned for the next seminar. Thanks again to Sister Chineme. We really appreciate your time today. Bye, everybody. Have a great Saturday.